something's going wrong with the tech today. And I'm not sure that we are live. Hang on a minute. I think it's working. I think we're in business. I apologise to everybody that was just with us and then we had to end. How rude. But I'm hoping we're back on it.
I think we are.
Hang on a minute. Yes, we're live. We're finally live. Oh, I'm so sorry, people, for having to leave and come back. But it's always tricky. The tech always gets us. So thank you, Help Me Bunny, for that. Give us a wave, everybody, if you've managed to successfully rejoin. I'm sweating now. Oh, right. So how are you today, Kirsty?
I'm all right. I've just had such a busy week, and I was kind of looking forward to a chilled out weekend. But I'm just might have to not pull an all nighter, but work quite late tonight just to catch up. But how are you? You had a busy week.
Very busy week, but it's good that you've made that point because that's what we're going to talk about today. It's how you manage your capacity as a VA. So nice little lead in there, Kirsty.
You're getting natural like this now, you know.
You're getting really good, aren't you? It's like you're a podcast pro now. And for everybody else that's joined, please let us know where you are in the world, where you're joining from, and how you are today. So it's nice to have the conversation flowing. This is a really good topic because it's come up time and time again when I've spoken to VAs, and it came up for me. I think it took me a few years to realise that we just kind of say yes to everything as VAs and then don't actually realise how to work out our capacity. And what you can't do is just say yes and then go, crap, I've got no time left, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But today we really want to talk about how to manage it's quite funny asking VAs to think about how to manage their time when they're helping clients manage their time.
Yeah.
It's not really managing time, it's managing your capacity. Because it's really important to have a good project bit of software to help you understand how to break down the time you do for clients, understand how much capacity that actually leaves you with, and to work out how much income you can potentially make. And if you can do that earlier rather than later, then you're not going to get yourself into the trap of taking on work that actually gets you to a ceiling where you can't go past that and you're not making anything. So this is my experience. I very much did just that in the beginning, took on work. Yeah, I can do that, without really realizing how many hours I was committing to and how much time that would leave me with. Because one of the bizarre things I think about being a VA is, isn't it funny how you can work a job, an 8-hour-a-day job, and 40 hours a week, but as a VA, it seems to take double the amount of time to do that work in a day, and I think it's because of the headspace you need, because you've got multiple clients from different industries. You have to kind of switch in and out, and then on top of that, you need to create some buffer time in between client work so that you can recalibrate, you can refocus, reswitch, have a break. It is weird, don't you think? It's weird, Kirsty, how you think, God, how could I have done 8 hours, 10 hours a day? And I'm doing it now as a VA, but I don't seem to fit it all in.
Do you know what it is though? It's because if you think back to full-time employment, the tasks that you do in full-time employment are probably repetitive tasks that you do every day. So if I look at my previous job, it would be order processing invoices, checking emails. But actually, when you've got multiple clients, they're not repetitive jobs all the time, are they? Every client wants something different, whether it be social media or inbox management, blah, blah, whatever. They're not repetitive tasks. And because they are your clients, you think your brain, says, well, I've got to do this and I've got to do this. Whereas if you're in employment, you're just I just got to do this, because those tasks will be done again tomorrow, the next day. But being a VA, you're more conscious that your clients are your income.
Yeah, that's so true. So you're putting a lot more time, effort, thought.
Yeah.
And I always say to my husband, he's got a physically demanding job and I haven't, because I sit on my backside all day basically. But mentally it is really, really tiring. I mean, does anybody else experience the fatigue that comes with I think it's just mentally draining, having to be constantly forward thinking about next client, and you're also running a business. You can't forget that.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, I mean, certainly Mondays and Fridays for me are quite a lot of my time is spent doing meetings with clients about the next week or the last week or whatever. And those calls can take 45 minutes, an hour by the time, you know, you've caught up and like set the task and thing. And those, if you had 2 or 3 of those a day, that's 3 hours out of your day that's taken up by client calls, which is fine. But then you then got to catch up on the 3 hours work that's just been set and do everything else that you've already got to do in that week. So it is so hard to try and just, you have to say no at some point. Like I've had to say no a couple of times this week because all you're going to do is end up overwhelmed and burnout, and that will be the start of the, you know, the doom, as we call it, where, you know, you're on a slippery slope where you just, you know, I get overwhelmed, and the best thing to do is walk away 5 minutes, come back, reset and restart.
You know what, it's so true. And like you've just said, you still, like you've spent 3 hours a day on client calls. That I think what we don't do is remind ourselves that as a VA, we are running our own business and we have to factor in time to manage our business. And what quickly happens is you fill all of your capacity up with clients and no time to actually think about your strategy, your marketing, taking those inquiry calls, and then it leaves you feeling really stressed. How do you do networking if you've filled your days up every single day with clients? So this is what happened for me. I got to a capacity, and whilst it's brilliant, and I'll come back to what's brilliant in a moment, you realize, well, actually, you know, how do I fit in all of this work? And I think the biggest struggle is, how do I work out how much time I've got? And this is one of the reasons why packages are really important, because I keep banging on about people not getting paid up front. And one of the reasons people don't get paid up front is because they offer a service where they just time the hours and then bill at the end of the month for how many hours they've done for each client. One, that leaves you wide open to never getting paid. Two, there's no way you can keep track of your capacity like that, because if 1 minute you're doing 5 hours a month and the next minute that client you're doing 17, and then the next minute you're doing 40, one of those months you're going to be left with no money because you've not got enough work from the client, and another month you're going to be overwhelmed with too much work, and you've probably, in those 3 months, let's say for example you've had a client for 3 months, they've promised you it's probably going to be on average about 40 hours a month. You've allocated that time for them, but they only give you 5 hours in the first month, 17, as I say, in the second month. And then you start to think, oh, wow, they're not actually giving me the 40 hours. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to fill that time with new clients. You fill that time with new clients, and then month 3 comes and they give you the 40 hours. How do you now find that time? And that's why you have to remember, if you don't package up your services, you are essentially reserving your time for free. You are reserving your time for free. So unless that client's going to commit to that many hours, then and you're contractually, you haven't got it in your contracts. As long as you've got it in your contract, then great. But I would always package that time into a bundle of hours so that you know how much capacity you've got. And one of the things that we do is, if a client, for example, says to me, I want to downgrade, let's say they're on a 10-hour plan and they want to downgrade to 5 hours, that's fine. But I can't guarantee that when you want to upgrade, I will be available for you, because I now have to go and fill those 5 hours with somebody else. I have to fill that time. And that's why that's really, really important to do that. Also, you can then work out your capacity. So what I would do personally is I would start with a framework of you first. So put you in the driver's seat. I actually have a work-life balance guide, the ultimate work-life balance guide, which if you're a member of More Than a VA, you can get in your resources area. If you're not a member, then just head to the link in the bio in Instagram and you'll be able to sign up for free. And in there, it does help you think about working out what's important to you in terms of your family time. So imagine you're starting with a blank slate, like a blank calendar. and you want to fill that calendar in first with the things that are important to you in your life. Now, that might be the gym. It might be that you take your children to school. It might be that you want to put time aside for calls. So if you can do that, if you can set your diary up to say, I only take calls between this time and this time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at least then when you sync your calendar, say Calendly or whatever software you use, it's only going to book times in on those slots. If no one books a time, great, that's just giving you some free time back to do something else. Then you might want to put some hours in for marketing or social media. Put all of that in first. Then you can see how many hours you've got left each day for actual client work. It's really difficult to do that retrospectively. So if you're new to the VA world, I would recommend you definitely do that first. And then the best way I think to work out, and you can use ChatGPT to help you with this, because I certainly did, was you break down your packages by minutes, by days. So what we do is we say, right, what is a 5-hour plan? If you broke it down over the month per day, and you know what it is? What is it, Kirsty?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. That is all it is. And do you know why it's a game changer to actually work that out? And I'm not saying that you always have to do just 15 minutes a day, because once you get to know the client, you might realize that actually on certain days, let's say you're doing social media for them, you need a little bit longer. So you might have to bundle those 15 minutes into like 30 minutes one day, but it just means you do a day less for them. And the reason why this is so important is you can use that to remind your client that, just so you're being realistic about your time, 5 hours only equates to 15 minutes a day. Do you think that's really going to be enough time to achieve your goals? Now, it helps that customer, that client, to reframe and think, wow, I don't think that's going to be achievable. Maybe we should go to 10 hours. Maybe we should go to 15 hours. Maybe we should go to 20 hours. So really understanding yourself, what 5 hours a month really means you can communicate that to your clients. And that might mean that those clients then upgrade their packages. But breaking it down in that way, so what does 5 hours look like? Well, that's 15 minutes a day. What does 10 hours look like? I think we thought that's about 30 minutes a day, isn't it, Kirsty?
Yeah.
20 hours is like 45 minutes. And that means you then can start scheduling that time in across the week into your calendar. And you start to really see what capacity you've got left, because you'll see blocks of time that isn't filled in with any client work, and then you'll start to see how much capacity you've got. But you'll also be able to use that then to say, well, how much does a 5-hour plan a month get me, or a 10-hour, or a 20, or a 40? How many of those do I need to sell to get to the income that I want to get? And then it might be, well, actually, if I sold, so many 40-hour plans, or a mix of 5, 10, 15, and eventually got to this goal, it's still not going to be enough money. Then you can think about, okay, now I need to increase my prices, or I need to diversify my offer, or I need to package things up differently. And you can only do all of that if you've initially sat down and worked out your capacity. What do you think?
See, yeah, I mean, I'm the world's worst, right? So majority of my clients are admin. Some are like social media, and I am the world's worst at doing my own admin because I don't have the time. And if I could show you the state of my office, you'd be horrified, because as Lisa knows, I'm a massive clean freak, right? So my house is like spotless. I spend like 3 hours on a Saturday just cleaning the whole thing. But I just haven't got time to put the paper in the recycling bag, or, it's just chaos because I haven't got the time. I used to do every week a client time planner, simple thing on an Excel spreadsheet, what the clue the client was, the package, the time, and I used to split the 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever time it was. And once I'd done that time, I'd check it off. Well, that's gone right out the window. So now I have a list every night at 9 o'clock. I write my list out for the next day and what I've got to achieve. And it literally looks like this. I don't know if you can see that. So that's my list. That is just today's list. And the problem is when you do it like that, and somebody goes, I've just had a WhatsApp come through. Oh, can you just quickly do this for me today? Then that list goes right out the window.
Yeah.
Because I am a yes person. It's my downfall, because, I will always do whatever I can for clients. And you have to be really strict. I can't go back now. There's no way back for me. I'm doomed with the admin side of it. I'm never gonna, unless any VAs out there want to like help me out. But yes, set yourself some time aside. 20 minutes. Think of your own package. 15 minutes a day. You know, that's my package for my time to set out where I've got to do, and you know what I've got to do in that day.
So I've tried lots of different ways. I started with a spreadsheet, and I'm glad I did it, because one day I just thought enough is enough. And so I got a spreadsheet, and what I did was I did like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then I said, what time do I want to start in the day? And what time do I want to finish? And that's brilliant, because you are then your own boss. You can say, you know, well, I want to start at this time in the morning and I want to finish by this time. You have to put the boundary around it first. So I did that, and then I was able to then put in realistically now I had to do this retrospectively, because like you, I didn't start like that. So then I had to put in all my clients before I could put in the gym or time with my children or marketing or managing my business, because unfortunately I'd done this back to front. So I can't prioritize me. I have to now prioritize my clients. I can't just get rid of them and say, look, I've just realized I haven't got enough time for you. The gym's more important. So bye. So I put all of those clients in, and then realized I didn't have any capacity at all for anything else. And I was like, wow, I'm so glad I can now visualize this, because otherwise I would have got myself into a mess taking on more people. And that's when you start to understand why you're getting so stressed out and you seem to have no time for anything. Slowly, you will always have attrition as a VA. You will always have clients that leave. And instead of panicking about that, actually, I use that as an opportunity to start to get back some time. So now I moved from the spreadsheet and I started using Motion. Originally the Motion app, but because it automatically like reschedules appointments and that, but it didn't work as effectively as I wanted it to. So I moved to something called Sunsama, which you do have to pay for, but I think it's well worth it. I absolutely love it. I can put repetitive tasks in there for clients, but I can put my time in too, and it helps me see what availability I've got each day. So I'll show you the phone version, but I have it on like the desktop app. And so, for example, I don't know if you can see that. So this is Friday. Can you see that? And it's just got like and it syncs with like my Google Calendar, so it shows all my appointments in there as well. And then I've got in there like all the things I've got. I've even got, you see this? That's called walk. Go for a walk. All right. My work. So it's got all my stuff. And then you can put focus time in. It's got a timer on it. One of the best things I love about this is what I needed, because I don't know if you're anything like me, but we use our own time portal system, but lots of people use things like Toggle. That's great. But you go off and you get stuck in a client's work, and it might be something you really love doing. So you're spending way longer than those 15 minutes. And this is the other part of the problem by not managing your capacity or really understanding what something like 5 hours a month is. When we've just said 5 hours a month is 15 minutes, and you've got carried away because they've asked you for a landing page, and 3 hours later you're still there. One, you're going to use up that person's time far too quickly. But two, you've now eaten into all your other clients' time. So the other reason this is so important is to make sure you're making enough time in the day for all of your clients. And so I use Sunsama because I've set it up to say, like, for this client on this day at this time, I'm going to do 15 minutes or I'm going to do 30 minutes. I can press a little play button and it will start counting down a timer. And then when that time hits, the 30 minutes, this big like ping comes out, like it's like one of those gongs. And so it brings me straight back to like, I have to stop. That's it. I'm done. I can't fit any more in. And if a client says to me, oh, you haven't managed to finish that today, I'd be like, no, I haven't. Because I only allocate this much time for you each day, and unfortunately, I have now, exceeded that time. And you do have to get to a point where you're strong enough to have those conversations with your clients without feeling you're going to lose them. But clients do need to understand, unless they're paying for you for full-time hours, you do have other clients. And this leads me on to one of the things I've battled with recently is I keep toying with the idea of telling clients the actual hours I do for them each day. And I've spoken to a lot of VAs about this who don't think it's a good idea. So I'd be really interested to hear from anyone else who's joined on the chat tell me what you do, tell me what you think. I'd love your opinion. But the reason is, so for example, I have, as we all have as VAs, clients that don't realise they're not your only client, and they will, out of the blue, say, oh, could you do this for me? And you're like, Jesus, I already did their work for today, like 3 hours ago. Well, I haven't got any more time, and you don't want to say anything to them. But in my case, what I tend to do, let's say I've got a client where I'm checking their emails and then I've done that for the day. I'm not going to go back and check again because I've done that work. So I'll probably miss an email. So in that sense, I think it's better to tell them. I did put this out in a newsletter because we send out like a client update newsletter every Friday, and we do tell them things like this. And one of my clients actually came back and said, could you tell me the hours that you're working for me? And so I did. And I said, look, I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but not Thursday and Friday. And the reason I can't do Thursday and Friday is because the type of work they need, there are now only a 5-hour client, they've reduced down. They need double the amount of time on their account. So they need 30 minutes on Monday, 30 minutes on Tuesday, which leaves them only 15 minutes on Wednesday. That's their capacity if they want me to stretch their 5 hours out across the month. And by telling them the time, the actual times I'm working, it gives them time to give me the work in advance of the time I'm going to be doing their work. And it makes me feel a lot better, because if I don't respond to them, they're going to know it's because I'm not working on their account today. So what do you think about that, Kirsty? Like, what's your real opinion? I know you're a bit on the fence.
Yeah, I'm complete opposite. I am the complete opposite. I mean, you know, I was the same as you. I was like start at 10, finish at 3:30, 4, and now I'm like starting at 6:45 in the morning and finishing at 8 o'clock at night.
Oh.
But you know, that's what I wanted. I'm now in a position where I wanted to be. I've worked my arse off for 3 years, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
And I love it. But see, I have quite a lot of ad hoc clients, and so I have to, you know, factor in during the day that they might need me for an hour or 2 hours, you know, depending on, you know, what they need. So I do have to do that. And then if they don't use that time, I then allocate that to somebody else. But I tried to use that app, and to be honest, it was brilliant to begin with. And I loved the bong thing, because it was like, right, stop. But I don't know why. I just carry on. If I've not finished something, then I'll just carry on, because I hate that feeling of, at the end of the day, well, I didn't finish that, when I didn't finish that, and I've got to do that. And I feel, and for me, I'm the opposite. I'd rather use their time and say, you run out of time, you're gonna have to either upgrade or wait until your time resets, which invariably encourages them to upgrade their packages, because they want the work done, and you know, they're happy with the way I do it. So I'm quite against that, actually, saying I only work these days, and if that's, you know, not going to fit in with you, then it's just not going to work. Because my fear is that if I did that, they'd go, oh, well, I'll just find somebody else then who's going to be more flexible, like I was when I first started out. Because you do want to please first, second, third clients, because you kind of, you set that barrier quite high, because you want to be that people pleaser when you initially start out, and obviously throughout. But yeah, I'm not a fan of it. And when you said to me about it, I was like, oh my God, are you sure?
But think about it this way then, right? Flexibility. Are you charging more for doing work same day?
No,
right. And really, that's a premium service. Now, in our terms and conditions, and I would encourage you to be in most VA's terms and conditions, and actually when K and K Legal, that I've said that right, came on onto the podcast, and I would definitely recommend listening to their episode. They also advise you have a 24-hour turnaround clause, and we have that in our terms and conditions that says, if you ask for work, please give us 24 hours. And so therefore, if you have a client, like in my case, that says, I'm working like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they say to me on Tuesday, oh, can you do this job? I can do it. I can do it Wednesday, 24 hours later. I can still do it. I can still do it in your time. So, and look, I'm not saying that I'm regimented and I only work to those hours. That's not true. I am flexible. If things need to change, they can be. But I do think that the clients need to have some sort of a boundary. And what you're saying, I get what you're saying, but you're saying it because the reason you're working now 7 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night is because you haven't put those boundaries in place.
Absolutely. I'm my own worst enemy. Don't like, you know, I know what I've done, but that's kind of who I am. And I'm, you know, we've spoken before about, you know, the incident we had, and you know, I'm not very strong at saying no to people, but I kind of love the buzz of it. Like I say to my partner all the time, who doesn't really get what I do. Like he's like, you just sit there typing all day and all that kind of thing. Actually, if he sat next to me all day, he'd be like,
Yeah.
And I say to him, you know, I say, God, I'm so tired. Like, you know, I'm so busy. And he's like, that's what you wanted. And you kind of go, actually, yes, that is what I wanted. So I kind of like the buzz of it. Like I sit there, I do my list at 9 o'clock, 9:15, I shut the office down. Don't look at my laptop occasionally. But I kind of go, right, today. And when I finished a project, I think, oh, I've done it's like a euphoria type feeling for
Yeah.
me. You know what I mean? And a lot of my clients are really grateful for work that I do for them. Like they say thank you, and like, you know, you're amazing and all that kind of thing. And it's like, I've made somebody feel better. That's for me. And so I know it's chaotic, and I know it's my mum shouts at me all the time, I can do the hours, but that's what I wanted.
But isn't that because we are very different in where we're going in our businesses? So I own an agency and I'm trying to grow through associates. You are a solo VA. And so for you, you are the only person in your business. And so you're happy to do that in the way you're doing it. And you're not trying to market yourself.
No.
And that's why a lot of associates come into the industry, come into working as associates, is because they generally don't want to go out marketing themselves.
Yeah.
And so that works really well for you. But for me, I'm trying to grow a business that's bigger, and I don't have that kind of time or capacity. I'm also at a point where, you know, I've been running businesses like for 21 years. I ran my first business for 10 years. I've just got to a point where, like, I appreciate work-life balance, and I really want to actually finish it. I've done the days of, you know, flipping 15-hour days, and trust me, sometimes I still do 15-hour days. But actually, there's come a point, and there has been a point in my life where enough is enough. I do start work really early. Like I get up at 6. I might start between 6:30 and 7. Generally, though, I'm not starting client work at that time. This is time for me. So I'll do things like I'll go on Facebook groups. I'll be active in those groups. I'll be promoting the company in Facebook. I'll be checking emails. I'll be making the time for that. Not very well, but I do. And then by 9 o'clock, I'll be starting client work. But I also have 2 days a week where I'd start client work later because I go to the gym instead, or it's in my calendar anyway. That in. So these things are really important to me, but they're probably not as important to you. So you don't mind sitting there all day doing just the work you're doing. So it is about you, I suppose, as a VA, as a person, as a wife, a husband, you know, what your commitments are. You've got a daughter who's, you know, she's a teenager. She doesn't rely on you as much as maybe a small toddler would. But I do think at some point, like, you can get to burnout as well by working all of those hours. I still think, do you not agree then? Like you've stepped away from Sunsama, but you've still got your list. Because you realise that you can't just willy-nilly be. So if you sat there going, oh yeah, but I really want to finish this project, it's 3 hours, it took me 3 hours. Hasn't that then taken you away from another client? Or is that why you're staying up until 8 o'clock at night to then fit in the other client's work?
To be honest, it's some of the work. So what I do to try and balance it off, if I've got something that's particularly brain challenging, I'll do that first, and then I'll do something that's not got a, you know, I've got to concentrate on it, obviously, but it doesn't take 100% of my brain to. So I kind of balance it off that way. But so I don't really have like a 9 o'clock this client, 10 o'clock this client. I don't have it like that. So the way that I do it is I have the flexibility to go, right, well, I'll just do this task because I know it's going to take me 15 minutes, you know, and I set that time, maybe it might be 17, 18, 19 minutes or whatever, but I don't have the pressure of going, oh, I've only got this amount of time, quick. I take that having that pressure of the timer counting down, because 15 minutes goes really bloody quickly, right?
Yeah.
It really does. When you're looking at a clock, you think, shit, God, it's like 7.5 minutes gone already. And I'm not even started by the time you've logged in and looked at this, blah, blah, blah. So that pressure on me was like tick, 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 tick. I had to take that away because I was just getting myself so overwhelmed with timers and lists and all of that. But you're right, and it's different for me because my daughter is 16 this year. She's out with her friends. She doesn't really want to spend any time with me, and I'm boring and old. And my partner works, early mornings every weekend, every bank holiday. And I don't really have many friends around here. So for me, it's like the dogs, the housework, work, because that's for me. Like I've worked my ass off to get here, and I have to maintain that. So there is a certain element of pressure to get everything done, what I can get done in a day. And if that's not done 9 to 5, then I have to do it after 5. I have to.
But wouldn't you? I suppose it's like, I don't know, it's your personal life, isn't it? But could that not put a constraint or put strain on your relationship if your partner's working early morning and then, that's a great time for you to start because it doesn't matter, he's not there anyway. But then because I know he goes to bed early, so the only time you get to spend together, you're working. Couldn't that eventually have implications on your relationship?
Kind of, but the way that I try to do it is that I try to have a break in the evening to kind of do the dinner. We all sit down together, we have dinner together, we chat about our days. Imogen will then go up into her room, and that's where it's see her again till the morning when it's school run time, which is fine, and then we do spend some time together. But when he's off at weekends, I do try to stay away from work because that's the only time we get together. So I do balance it off a little bit, but in my mind, I kind of think, well, like on Tuesday, I worked in the garden. So I dropped him and John off at school, came home, sat in the garden, worked all day. I joined a call with the lovely Sarah Edwards, and she was like, "Are you in the garden?" And I was like, "Yeah." And it was lovely because I could just work away. I was outside getting some fresh air. The dogs were out there with me. And he came home and sat out there with me. Although we're not talking, we're still spending time together. And yeah, you're right. It might possibly have an impact, but it hasn't so far in 3 years since I've been doing this. It works.
So what if it did? What would you change?
I would have to set time boundaries. I would have to say at this, but again, if he's because he has rest days during the week, I do try to sort of keep some time in the afternoon, even if it's just an hour and a half. So we can take the dogs out for a walk, or go down to the beach or whatever. So I do try to kind of mix things around, but then the pressure's then on me the next day because I know I've not finished that task because I've taken 2 or 3 hours out. So it's trying to do that balance. And because I do need to have a more disciplined, structured day. I say it to myself all the time, but it's difficult teaching an old dog a new trick.
Yeah. And like what you've just said, I think one of the wonderful things about being a VA is you can work whenever you want. And that's fantastic. Like, literally, see, I don't plan in things like networking days. I go networking a lot, as you know. I just move work around. I don't even move work around, to be honest. What I do is I just don't do the work that day, or I do it later that night, or I might have to sacrifice and do the odd weekend. So you still have to be flexible in that way. Like if I choose to go to a conference one day, that means I can't do any of my client work all day. I'll just say to my clients, I'm not available today, or I won't tell them at all because it makes absolutely no difference to them. And I'll do it either first thing in the morning or later that night, or I might just catch up on the weekend. So it never doesn't get done. But I just think it's not about it's not about saying to yourself like you can't do anything. You can still you can put like your time for your clients in as if it's solid, written in stone, but it doesn't mean it has to be. You can still then go to the cafe for a few hours, or you go to the beach for a few hours, as you've just said. It doesn't mean you can't move that, but I think it's important to kind of have it written out as a schedule, even if you don't use it daily, just to keep an eye on your capacity. So, if a client comes along now as somebody new and they want your services, how do you know that you've got enough? Have you got enough time to take on more? So you know that, and how do you know that?
Because these purely because it's the same. It's like a rinse and repeat on a daily basis because working with the same clients, and there was absolutely no way I could take anybody else, even if it was a 5-hour client, 15 minutes a day. That's 15 minutes I just don't have. I just don't have that, and I wouldn't take anything else on, because I know that other things would start to fall down, or I'd kind of rush jobs and that kind of thing. And I'm very critical of myself, so if things are done and not happy with them, and I'll redo them and all that. So I just wouldn't put that added pressure on myself to squeeze somebody else in. It's just not.
Yeah. But do you keep some sort of a list of how many clients you've got, how many hours they've got, and then what your capacity is? Do you still keep something like that so you're aware?
Yeah, so I do try on a Saturday morning to update my Excel spreadsheet, so it just gives me an idea of, like, I can move, put the time in of what I'm going to be doing. But generally, I try not to have anything massively. It's just a list to me, and I can go, right, I'll do that now because I know I've got this. And then, if I've got a call booked in for like 1:30, I've got a small job I can do that's not going to, I'm not going to go onto the call and have to finish it. So I try to sort of.
Yeah, but what I mean is not like a daily calendar. I mean, like, weekly hours. Like, do you have something that says to you, actually, if I add all of these clients together, I'm going to be working 70 hours a week?
No.
You don't have that?
No.
How do you know? So if you don't have that in place, how do you know how much income you're bringing in each month?
I don't. Well, I do. I have a rough idea. So that's another thing I do try and do. I try and keep a spreadsheet of what I'm working on that month, and then it's generally the same every month anyway. So I do have a rough idea. It's not exact because I haven't got the time to do it.
But that's like, I think that's quite scary. Like, for me, you have to. It's all right saying, I don't know. Let's say you want to earn £4,000 a month, right? Then you have to go, okay, brilliant. Well, how many clients do I need on this package or this hourly rate to be able to bring in that much money? And without knowing that, with that end figure that you want, you can't then break it down. And what you might find is, actually, if it's great, you're saying you've got to where you want to go, but I'm sure you could earn more if you wanted to. You could look at what you're doing and say, right, okay, is there any capacity? If I did things differently, you might find that you could take on more clients. You might find that there are other things you could do to get to that revenue income. You might already be at the revenue income, I'm not sure. But I'm just saying, I still believe that, I think that one of the most fundamental important reasons that VAs should understand their capacity by putting in an initial framework, which starts with what you want your start time to be, what you want your finish time to be. These can all be moved. They don't have to be set in stone. You can move them once you've figured out, well, actually, I'm never going to earn what I want. You can put in all your important things in there, like things with your kids, all of that kind of thing. And you mentioned ad hoc time for clients. I did build in ad hoc time. So I did like a few hours a week, 3 hours a week across 3 days. That would be an hour for ad hoc clients, but I don't take ad hoc clients on anymore myself anyway. So I've removed those now because it wasn't serving me. And then once you know that, you can then, look, I'm trying to picture it in my brain as like a square box. Yeah. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, along the top, because there's no conventional days of the week when you work for yourself. You can work whatever days suit you. Then down the side is all your times of what you actually want to start at and finish at. Then you put in anything that's important to you. Then you go, right, well, this is how many hours I'm really left with each day. Now I can work out, do I actually want to work those how many hours? If I'm like, let's say, I don't know, a £50 an hour VA, and you're going to work, I'm not the best at maths, but I'm going to get a calculator up and I'm going to do this on a calculator, right? And see if we can get this to work. So let's say you've done your boundaries, yeah? And you've got 6 hours a day left, and you're only going to work 5 days a week. So six hours a day, £50 an hour is £300 per day. Times by 5 is £1,500 per week. times that by 4.3 on average for a month, that's £6,450 per month, which is that's an amazing income, isn't it? The reality is, right, I don't think most VAs are earning that much. And I think the reason that they're not, and I'm hoping I've got my maths right, if somebody in the comments tell me, Lisa, you totally screwed that up, then just tell me now. And I think the reason they're not earning that much is they're probably not charging that much per hour. For sure, most VAs won't be charging that much per hour, but you could be, and you should be. And also, it depends on your abilities, of course. If you're a tech VA, you can be. And actually, whilst you're saying you're working really long hours during the day, trying to fit 6 hours into a day is not actually that easy to do.
No.
Because a lot of the time isn't spent on running the clock. It's spent on learning, inquiry calls, other odd things that you might have to do. So as you've just said, oh yeah, but I might nip out to the beach, or every time you start to go and get a glass of water, or you go for a quick walk.
Yeah.
To reduce all of that time down, which is great because you need to. So let me do it this way instead. Okay. Let's say, Kirsty, I'm not going to ask you how much you charge per hour, but let's say you're only charging £20 per hour. And you are still doing 6 hours a day for a client. Oh, and actually, let's not say you're doing 6 hours. Let's say when you start taking all those fiddly bits out that we've just talked about, because that's the reality, you're probably only doing 5 hours a day. Okay, so let's say you do 5 hours a day at £20 an hour. Oh, I don't know if I've got that right. 5 times 20. Right, £100 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. £500 a week.
Yeah.
Times that by 4.3 a month is £2,150. And I think that's probably more realistic for most VAs. And the reason is they're charging too low. They're not getting that, or even if they was charging, more, if they're charging that but working more hours, they'd earn a bit more. But the thing is, you're not being realistic about your time, and you're not being realistic about your monthly goals. And so you've now constrained yourself, because what you've not factored in is the fact it's all right saying, oh, I'm going to charge £20 an hour and I'm going to work 8 hours a day, and this means I'm going to earn £2,000 to £3,000 a month. That doesn't happen a lot of the time, unless you're working, like you've said, 7 in the morning to late at night, and you're thinking, God, I'm working all these hours for just over £2,000 a month. And the reason is you've not factored in the fiddly little bits that you can't press the clock on, which is, I've got to go to the supermarket, I've got to pick my child up from school, I'm going to pop to the beach this afternoon and actually take some time out, or I've got a doctor's appointment, or I've got to spend 3 hours on a new client call and I don't charge for that. So all of these things you don't factor in to your calendar, because you have to put a boundary around it. You're not charging enough. So the reason I'm telling you this is, if you plan it back to front from that perspective, and then you go, shit, I'm only ever going to make that, ever. There is no more capacity. I have no more time. So the only way I can now make more is I have to charge more. And it gives you the confidence to do one of two things. Either you sit there and work 10 hours a day instead, which I would recommend no one to do, or you start charging more money.
See, this is the reason why I'm a solo and you're the businesswoman. So I would never ever have thought of it like that, because you don't, because I don't really have a massive business brain anyway, which is shit, because I run my own business. But I would never have worked it out like that. I would never have gone, well, that's all you're ever going to earn because you're at capacity.
Exactly. And people think, and you're not the only one, trust me, I learned this the hard way too. You think more clients, more money. That does not work. It does not. You've just proven that cannot work. There is a way it can work, obviously. You can specialize in something and charge more and earn a lot more money. Or for me, I firmly believe one of the best things you can do is go down the associate route. So the only way as a solo VA you can have exponential clients is if someone else is doing the work. Now, I'm not saying there's massive profit margins in it. It's a numbers game. The more clients you have, the more profit you're going to make. But for me, that's what I'm trying to build with LTVA Services, my VA agency. I don't want to be the day-to-day in with the clients. I don't want to. That's not what I want to do. I'm quite honest about that. As much as I love being a VA, I love running businesses. I love that side of things. I love the creative side, the strategy side. And so for me, I don't take client work on now. I still do have clients because they've been with me a really long time, but eventually they'll be handed over to my associates as the business grows. And for me, I'm going to be able to bring in any income I like on the back of working with a team. And my business, and I'm not saying this is my personal income, it's not, it turns over between £8,000 to £10,000 per month, which I could not achieve as a solo VA. I don't care what any business mentor out there tells you can't. I don't earn that personally, trust me, but I know there's no capacity ceiling for me. I don't have to worry about, oh my God, I can't fit any more in, and that's the only income I'm going to make. All I have to worry about is getting more and more and more clients, because I'm not going to be doing the work with them. Other team members are, and I'll have a small profit on the back of that. But I'm not saying that that's the road everyone should go down. If you do want to go down that road, though, I have an amazing new guide that I've just released, how to scale your business, VA business beyond 2K months, and I will leave a link to that on the grid when this goes on in straight after the show, and on our podcast, which I beg you to follow, the VA Live Lounge. Please follow and give us a like. This will be published on their all podcast channels next week, so it's always a week later on a Friday, but you can go and watch all the back episodes. But I would say, if you don't want to go down the associate route and start building an agency, you need to do what I've just said, is sit down with a blank piece of paper. It doesn't have to be digital. Put a box around it, put your times down one side, put your days of the week along the other, put your important things in there. Be really realistic about stupid things like going for a walk, so you can start to see how many hours you've really got in the day, work out what you want your income to be, then say, by charging this per hour, am I ever going to get to that income goal? And you'll probably find the answer's no. And then you've got to decide what you're going to do.
I'll send you all my figures and you can do it for me.
Has anybody got any questions? We've got loads of people join, and everyone's just sitting there being really, really silent. And I'd love,
don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. Like, ask questions, ask for advice. It doesn't have to be about capacity. It can be about anything at all to do with being a virtual assistant. But yeah, I think this is something that is important, and I keep thinking of ideas of, like, maybe there's something I could give for free, or something that I could develop to help VAs figure that out.
Yeah.
But you know, it's about working things out. But I call it scaling smart, scaling back to front. You have to, I say this to any business owner, start as you mean to go on. So start as if you're already there, and then work your way backwards. And lots of people get this wrong. They start thinking small. And if you think small, you're only going to be small, in my opinion. So they'll think things like, oh, this is the business I want, but I need this CRM system, for example. Oh, but it's too much. So what I'll do is I'll have a free one instead. And then you'll outgrow the free one, and now you've got to do all that work again by moving to a new system. Pay the money, just invest in the right processes, the right systems, the right things from the beginning. I know it's expensive and I know it's difficult, but it makes your life so much easier, because if you act as if you're already there, you don't have to restart those processes. You just come back then to the beginning, and you've already got the frameworks in place. Do you understand what I mean by that? So, like, for example, when I started out, as you know, Kirsty has been with me like literally from day one. I mean, I was probably like 12, 18 months into my business, and I always knew one of the first things I was going to do was take on my own assistant. And I paid Kirsty for about 2 years before I paid myself, you know, because for me, it was just so important that I scaled my business, and the only way I was going to actually scale it was by having a team. You cannot scale a business on your own. You just can't. And so, you know, I very quickly found you, took you on. that's part of scanning smart. It's starting as you mean to go on. It's putting those processes in place. As you know, we work with clients all the time. We're telling them, I haven't got the money yet to invest in support. No, you invest in support and then you make the money.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so having had this conversation now with you about capacity, has it changed your view at all?
Yeah. Yeah, it has. I mean, I kind of, yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because unless somebody actually says it to you like that, you kind of just, you don't really think about it. So it is something that I am going to have to look at, because I should be more regimented with like my time and my spreadsheet and all that kind of thing. So it is something that I am going to have to look at and, you know, prioritize and all that kind of thing. So thank you for opening my eyes, as always.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Well, I think that's it for today. We'll be back next week. I'm not sure what we're talking about next week, so we'll just leave it as a nice surprise.
Or if anybody wants to pop into the VA community, give us an idea of what you want to talk about, or if there's any questions, then just let us know and we can build that into the next week's show.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we do. So we have More Than a VA as a free membership. Anyone can sign up. You get instant access to a bank of free resources. We're adding to it all the time, but there's done for you templates in there, links, there's video guides, and then there's a free private community that you get access to as well. So I would urge you to jump on that, because why wouldn't you if you're going to get access to all that free stuff? And we always let you know then about the VA Live Lounge, and it's coming on, and also you get a weekly newsletter which includes top tips to try for the week. So next week's coming out. If you want to join it, you're going to get tips on PR, so how you can elevate your business through PR. We always include announcements about legislation that's coming in, things that you need to be aware of as a VA, things that are changing in the law, so you don't have to worry about it, because we'll put that in there for you. We'll let you know about any new freebies that we've added to the resource area. So all of that's in there. And it's really useful. It's just value driven. So I would recommend that you sign up. And if you head to morethanava.org, then you'll be able to see everything about the membership, and all the back episodes of our podcasts are on there as well. And they're well worth listening to. We've got some really exciting guests coming up in the next few weeks, like literally some amazing people. We're hoping next week to have a VA on the show called Kim, who's going to be talking about juggling motherhood and the chaos that children bring with trying to run your own business. But we can't guarantee that she'll be our guest next week. So it might just be me and Kirsty again, you know, chewing the fat, talking about
the world to rights.
But you can also follow us on our new Facebook page. I am More Than a VA. You just need to answer the membership questions to get in. And on there, we do put a post out each week asking you to put your questions in, any questions you've got for the live, and then we can put those out live on air. But please do keep following us. If you're not following us on Instagram, please do. We're here to help you, and you can always just drop us a message. If you didn't want to ask a question today, but you do have a burning question, just drop me a message. Or Kirsty, where can they find you on Instagram? Do you not know your Instagram handle?
No.
I think it's Kirsty Moore Virtual Assistant, isn't it?
Yeah, more than likely. Give that one a go. Be fine.
Kirsty Moore, MOORE, Virtual Assistant. Or you can find me at LTVA Services or on More Than a VA. But yeah, thanks, Kirsty. It was really eye-opening, wonderful, great episode. I hope you helped people today. And